The things that broke me, trying to get to all the emails, trying to help the customers, trying to make the chocolate, it's this loop, and that eventually led to multiple phases of burnout. Welcome to Craft Chocolate TV. My name is Dylan, and today we are going to talk about why chocolate makers don't succeed. At least some reasons. And there's a big list. These are only some reasons because every business is unique in their own areas and what they're trying to do. The first one is starting too small. If you start too small, you're very likely to lead to the next one here, which is burning out. You're going to run out of money. You're not going to have enough time. It is just an extreme burnout recipe for disaster. I know firsthand because it's the way I started. And it's just awful. And there are reasons I was able to get through it, mainly because I was 24 years old and I was able to live at my parents' house. And that really helped. But I also recognized the problem very quickly and was able to do a Kickstarter, which was a crowdfunding platform, where I raised $19,000 and bought bigger machines within 8 months of starting, maybe a year. Learned the hard way very quickly and started scaling as fast as I possibly could. So don't start too small. You need your time in ways that you can't even imagine. And so the bigger the batch you can make, the better it is going to be for the success of your chocolate business. So we could talk about starting too small for a long time. I'm going to keep moving on because there's a longer list here. You want to avoid burnout. And I hit that multiple times. So do your best to avoid burnout by saving your time on the chocolate making side. Mismanaging money. Gosh, that's so easy to do, especially in the beginning, because you don't really know what you're doing yet. Speaking from personal experience, on both ends of this spectrum, I didn't start with enough money, and so it was really hard to buy raw materials in an appropriate way to have cost savings, because you can buy the same cocoa butter, but if you buy a block of it, it's better than buying a few kilos. If you buy a pallet of it, it's better than buying a block. But you only have so much money available. And so you have to buy within these limits of what you have available to yourself. And I often think of money as oxygen for your business. If you use it all, you starve to death and die. This is a cash flow problem. And this is why you can have things like revolving lines of credit with the bank. So you can use money within the bank. It's like your bank within a bank. And you buy things like beans and butter and sugar. And as you convert it into chocolate and sell it, you can very quickly pay back your revolving line of credit. And so I was doing this in the beginning and learned how to do it effectively. But there was a time when I wanted to get a better rate on cocoa butter and subsequently shipping, importing into Hawaii. And so I overbought, which I don't know, maybe it was only like 3 boxes at the time. But that meant I had no money left. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, what do? I have to pay my rent. I have to pay the electricity bill. I have to pay people. And that puts you in an uncomfortable situation that you just never want to be in. So many business owners know what I'm talking about right now. It's the most stressful thing that I've ever gone through in the business. And I pray that I never experience it again. And I've been very careful after learning these initial lessons to not repeat that mistake. And it can happen easier than you'd think, even after many, many years of doing it. So you got to leave yourself some wiggle room for other things that come up that take your money. So mismanaging money, that's a big one. And we just want to say a quick thank you to Cocoa Masterclass for helping to sponsor this episode. This is an opportunity I got to go to in Hawaii a few months back. Absolutely loved it. Learned all about the bigger commodity markets, and it's just a wonderful chocolate education program. So check it out. You can get a discount if you type in Learn Cocoa. You'll get 5% off. So check it out. Too much happening. Too much happening in the sense that nothing is all that difficult in running a business, I don't think. It's more the amount of things to do. It's just overwhelming. And that's when you need to start hiring people, which hopefully you have enough revenues to do. But the things that broke me were always the amount of things to do. trying to get to all the emails, trying to help the customers, trying to make the chocolate. It's this loop, and that eventually led to multiple phases of burnout. So too much happening is a big one, and that's why you need help. So at some point you need to start hiring people, but once again, you got to go back to managing your money properly, because hiring people will become your biggest expense very, very quickly, and you have to make sure that they are efficiently using their time on your clock. And that sounds obvious and easy, and it's not. But really difficult if you're paying someone by the hour and you have a friendly relationship with them. You really have to make sure that people are efficient, especially in places like Hawaii, where labor is very expensive. Another one is what to focus on or to prioritize. You can have the desire to make the greatest chocolate in the world, and you just want to make single origin chocolate bars. Great. Who cares if your business isn't making money and selling chocolate bars? So what we realized also pretty early on is that customers didn't want a 70% Dominican Republic bar from us, or a 70% Cocoa Camili Tanzania bar. As much as I love these origins and these beans, I wasn't able to keep making them because my customers, my market, didn't care. And so why fight that? So what I realized was I needed to start making inclusion bars that had Hawaii-based flavors. I had to be my place. I had to be the chocolate maker in Hawaii. And when I started adding things like passion fruit and mango and banana and coconut, our sales went up a lot. We also focused heavily on packaging. Packaging really is what sells your product initially. Your store, your packaging, as you grow, that's the first thing people see when they see it on a store shelf. That's what they're going to try. If they like it, they buy it again. They tell their friends. They share with people. That's crucial. And so adding inclusions is what Manoa chocolate has primarily grown off of. We also realized that people did have a desire for our single origin Hawaiian bars. At the time, there were not very many sources. Now we've got over 10 sources of Hawaiian beans, and all of them are good. We have an amazing lineup of single origin Hawaiian chocolate bars that I'm very proud of. That is our identity as a brand and what we will continue to focus on for our future. But we have been growing off of our Flavors of Hawaii line, which are flavors that are focused in Hawaii. So what to focus on in order to keep revenues coming in and growing so you can keep doing what you really want to do, which in our case is making chocolate. Growing too fast. Now this ties back to one of our earlier conversations, earlier points about cash flow. It's very easy in some cases to grow in wholesale too quickly. If you take on orders that are beyond your capabilities, you will notice that you have no money, even though you're selling a lot of things, a lot of chocolate bars in this case. And if you say, want to sell to Costco, I'm very hesitant to work with companies that are too big for us, where I know they're too big for us at this point. Costco takes pallets regularly, and once you turn on that tap, it can be hard to stop until you either fall apart and break or have to pull out embarrassed, and you can't get that account later because they're going to remember this most of the time. So growing too fast in the sense that you have to buy large amounts of packaging, large amounts of beans. You have to set up a bigger chocolate factory. You have to have all this equipment and labor in order to create pallets and pallets of chocolate bars. And that costs a lot of money, and you might not have had that. And so then you start to provide it to the store, and then you have to wait before you get paid. Sometimes 30 days, sometimes 60 days, sometimes even more. It depends on what you negotiate. And that will cause your business to break if you are not careful. So growing too fast can be dangerous, and that mainly applies to wholesale. Retail, grow that as fast as you want, because that's money tomorrow. You do the sale, it's in your account. You're ready to go. You're able to pay your people, you're able to buy your raw materials, you're able to pay your rent, as long as you're selling enough retail. So that would be the only reason to expand retail quicker anyway. Staffing and labor, it's the absolutely essential to have as you grow your company, but you want to only hire when you absolutely need to, because this will be the biggest expense on your financial statement is labor. And the better you manage this, the more successful you will be. And you have to remember why you're doing what you're doing. In most cases, we're starting chocolate companies because we love the industry that we found ourselves in. Craft chocolate is a beautiful industry, buying really high quality beans and manufacturing very high quality chocolate bars for a relatively new segment of a market. And most of us did not get into this in order to just hire people. Some people maybe did. It's not why I did. And we're at 40, 45 people now. And I really love our employees, but we're not doing it for them. And if you overhire, your company will fall over and die because it just can't physically support it. So be very careful how quickly you hire. And this leads into the next part. And the more important part, because you're bound to cross it, every company does, toxic employees. There's always going to be people that you come across through your journey, your adventure as a business owner that are rather toxic. And I have learned the hard way a number of times now where you just have to fire them really quickly. And it's uncomfortable, and you try and make excuses, and you have a history with them and a friendship potentially that you just have to let go, because for the greater good of your company and all the employees that do work in it, you can't let one apple spoil the bunch. That's the common analogy we have. It's so true. And I've watched it happen probably 3 times within Manoa Chocolate alone. Very, very challenging. Probably equal to not being able to pay rent with cash flow issues. It can be such a difficult thing to face, where you'll have lots of people quit at the same time for perceived inequities in how they feel. And at the end of the day, we're just here trying to make really good chocolate and grow a Hawaiian cacao industry. And so this is just an insight into some of my experiences in the past, but I know that every company does face this at some point in its growth, because growing is hard. And when you experience growing pains, people don't like change, and you're just bound to encounter this. So be careful with toxic employees. As soon as things start to sour, it's best to just make sure that they go on their way so that you can continue to focus on what you're trying to do and make the best chocolate you possibly can in our beautiful little craft chocolate industry. Not enough sales will certainly do it. If you try and say rent more space and you don't get more sales, or if you try and hire more people and you don't get more sales, you're going to fail. So it's good to have some leads on that before you try and expand. But this is a catch-22. If you do not set up a bigger chocolate factory and buy bigger machines, you cannot end up providing more chocolate. And so this is a tricky one that you have to have your finger on the pulse of your own business in order to know how fast to grow and when to do it. I feel like I've got a pretty good idea of this just because of now 14 years of doing it. I now look at financial statements regularly, which have really helped in order to make these decisions, because if you are profitable and you spend money correctly, you do have really positive growth over this in my case, 14 years of history. I know that I've wanted a bigger chocolate company, so I've made my decisions based on that vision of knowing what I want and where it's going. Yeah, you got to have your finger on the pulse of that one in order to know when to take those next steps. And I find it's easier to put on a sales hat and get bigger accounts than it is to build a chocolate factory. And so we're in the process right now of building the chocolate factory, and we're casting out nets and hooks for the bigger accounts that we know are within reach right down the road, that can then help support this growth that we've invested in and are almost ready to set up. Not growing to a minimum viable size. This goes back to don't start too small. Minimum viable size is subjective to a degree. You have to be able to support your life and your lifestyle to the point where you're satisfied. And if you don't hit that, then you're not at a minimum viable size. So you've got to do the math on your equipment, your sales, the amount of chocolate bars you think you can make, what channels you're going to sell them in. Are you going to sell it retail? If you're going to sell everything retail, you don't have to be as big. You can have a successful chocolate company with a few stone melangers if you're retailing every single bar, and you have the equipment to accompany it to speed it up enough that you don't have to hire a lot of people. So there you have it. Those are some of the reasons that chocolate makers aren't succeeding. There's more. We can talk about them later, but hopefully this is insightful enough that you can avoid some of these mistakes. See you next time. Aloha. Good luck.